Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Remotely Speaking Up. We are on episode number 7, and last week we spoke to Jeremy Stephen, an economist, about how countries can better facilitate remote workers, especially as there's been a lot of conversation around countries introducing a welcome stamp to attract digital nomads. So while Jeremy spoke to us about how we can attract these type of workers, this week we thought we would speak to one of these digital nomads. So this week we're joined by Sarah Azim, who is a graphic designer based in Washington State. That's right, Sarah. Washington State. I always get it too wrong. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. And Sarah's had a lot of experience as a digital nomad. And she's going to tell us a bit about her experience and about some of the things that she looks for from the countries that she travels to. So Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, Rochelle. First of all, thanks for having me. So excited to be here and talk about this with you. I'm so excited about everything that you're doing, and it's just
thank you.
Incredible. So a little bit about me. I'm based out of Washington State. I work for an amazing consulting company. So my graphic design is consulting now. So everywhere from branding to digital marketing to print, kind of all over the map, bringing all of my skills that I've learned over the years and bringing them all together into one spot.
Yeah.
I'm up to these days.
Brilliant. And I know like you're based in Washington right now, but before that, you moved around quite a bit. You were in another part of the States, if I have that right, if I can remember right. And then before that, you were in Thailand.
Yep, which is where we met.
Yes.
Right now, I'm in a little beach town, actually about 20 minutes from the Canadian border.
Yeah.
And about 2 hours from Seattle.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a backstory of how I ended up here.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm happy to tell you about that if you're interested.
Oh, we're always interested here. Yeah, but first, can you tell us a bit more about why you became a digital nomad? What was it or were you always in this type of work?
No, I actually have worked in corporate companies and worked as a contractor for a long time. So I bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah.
But something about just the freedom of not having to go into an office every day. I was tired of the commute. I was tired of sitting in traffic for an hour to get to work and then 2 hours to get home, and all the office politics and constant meetings. And I just, I knew that I would be more productive at home and with the freedom to be able to pick up and go whenever I wanted to. The world was calling me. And so Thailand, it's always been just a really special place to me, and I've always felt called to go there. And so when I met you, same kind of situation, and that was really when I got my feet wet with the whole digital nomad experience. And I took 2 months and I went to Koh Lanta and joined Koha, the wonderful co-working community where we met. And within a couple weeks there, I realized I don't want to come home, and I want this to be my life. And so I finished out my 2 months and I went home and wrapped up everything that I could, got rid of my apartment, got rid of all my stuff, and bought a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia to begin my true digital nomad.
That's such a bold move, a one-way ticket. I don't know if I have that courage, but it sounds so appealing. And Thailand is such a magical place for it. I don't know if that's a bit of a fairy tale word, but it's the truth. It is the perfect place to work remotely. Yeah. Did you always want to go to Thailand, or did you consider other locations before choosing there?
Thailand, there's something about that country, and I've had this love for that country for a long time now, and I honestly can't put my finger on it. There's just something that was telling me in my heart that that's where I needed to begin my digital nomad life was
Yeah.
in, and then, you know, and then I would go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree because Cohub as well. Cohub was that was quite a good community as well for digital nomads. So although you're going on this new adventure alone, when you get there, there's this existing community, which was quite nice.
Yes,
So how do you
absolutely.
find it now with everything that's been going on, the pandemic? It's I know I've heard that for a lot of nomads, it's completely upended their experience. So what has it been like for you?
Yeah, well, so when I came back from Thailand and this last time, and I like I was telling you before, I got rid of my apartment, and I literally got rid of all of my things that I had been carrying around for the last, you
Mm,
know, 25 plus years,
yeah,
and bought that one-way ticket, and then a week later COVID hit, and so I was never actually able to leave.
yeah,
And so it's affected, you know, just my life plan, just like I know it has affected so many other people in so many different ways.
yeah,
But for me specifically, yeah, it was quite a shocker. Just what am I going to do now? I
yeah.
literally, I got rid of everything, and I'm traveling now with one bag and like 5 outfits, and you know,
Nightmare.
minimalist. But you know, when you're traveling, you know, as a digital nomad, and you're going from country to country, and
Yeah,
you know, depending on where I was going, the weather was going to be hot, so
yeah,
I didn't need a lot of clothes. You know, I didn't need a lot of bulky stuff, so my bag was small,
yeah.
uh, and yeah. But now I'm here in Washington, and Washington's, you know, we have 3 months out of the year where it's really
Yeah.
nice weather, and then you
Whoa.
know, it's cold again. So it's
Yeah.
definitely I've had to adapt,
Yeah.
but really for me, it's really just kickstarted my digital nomad life
Mm,
here in my home state and my home country, which
yeah.
I had never intended that.
Mm,
Um, and so I'm learning a lot, and I'm still continuing to network and connect with other digital nomads. And
yeah.
you know, I think when the borders do open back up and we're able to travel again, I'm going to be really ready. Whereas, you know,
Yeah.
I was kind of going with it before. So I think, you know,
Yeah.
when the time is right, I'll definitely be.
Yeah, we're all crossing our fingers to be able to jump on a plane again comfortably and just say, I'm going here for 5 weeks, going here for another 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And I wanted to, you know, especially with everything that's going on in the world,
Yeah.
you know, where I was living in Seattle, I was right in the city, and um, it's pretty hectic
Yeah.
in cities right now. It's just
Mm,
kind of crazy. So I have been enjoying the excuse and the ability to just be able to pick up and go.
yeah.
Where had I not made that decision when I did, I would be stuck in my
Yeah.
apartment in the city in amidst all of the chaos that is happening
Yeah, that's true. And
right
it's a
now.
bit
So
chaotic your end as well with the you were showing me earlier the wildfires and
yeah,
getting a
now the
bit lost.
fires, it's
Yeah.
pretty. So I feel really grateful to be where I'm at and to be outside of the city, and
Yeah.
uh,
Well, that's
so
hopefully you stay safe. So
yeah.
what would you because I know you've probably seen on the news like everybody else that Barbados, my home country, let's just slip that in there. You've seen that they would have offered a welcome stamp, which has attracted global attention. And because of that, there's a lot of interest in Barbados. There's also a lot of interest in persons wanting to go there. And then there are also a lot of naysayers as well, saying that that won't be as attractive as another spot for various reasons. So I really wanted to get your take on it. What do you think when you heard about this? Because I'm sure you probably heard of it. When you heard about the welcome stamp, what did you and your nomad partners think?
Oh, so happy. I mean, what amazing news to be able to go spend a year in Barbados without having to, you know, do visa runs or even deal with any of that. I think it's incredible.
Yeah,
Um, and I hope to see you there next year.
Yeah, let's put it in the spirit.
Yeah.
Let's hope for the best. So
Yeah.
what attracted you then? Because you mentioned there was something about Thailand that had a pull for you. What is it about? Because the Caribbean hasn't traditionally been a digital nomad hotspot. So you as a digital nomad, why, let's say, why didn't you consider it before, and why would you consider it now? Is it just about the visa, or what would draw you to that location?
No, I mean, I think now where I'm at, just in my life and experiences, and uh, I had to go to Thailand and just follow my heart and where I was being called. But that was just to kick off my digital nomad life. I wanna go everywhere, and
Yeah,
Barbados. I mean, I would go tomorrow if I could. you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So really, for me now at this point, good Wi-Fi. I need to be able to have. As digital nomads, we have to be able to have good Wi-Fi,
yeah,
and an open community. A welcoming community.
yeah,
Absolutely, that's huge. And coming from a state where it's really cold in the wintertime and rainy and
yeah.
gloomy, we definitely. I'm making Seattle sound bad. It's really amazing. I love the Pacific Northwest, but I want to be where the sun is shining every day,
Yeah,
and you know the landscape is beautiful, and so that's also a pull for sure.
yeah,
um, and then also what's really important to me is when I do travel, I want to submerge myself in the culture and the community, and I
mm,
want to be able to use my skill as a designer to help,
yeah,
as well as just my wanting to go in and make a difference to wherever I go. And so
yeah,
for really for the community, and the co-working spaces,
mm,
to be open to digital nomads coming in and really digging in and getting their feet wet, and
yeah,
submerging themselves in the local life, and doing good wherever they can. Because how
yeah,
dare us just go in and enjoy everything that this beautiful country has to offer and not give anything back in return. So
yeah.
that's really important to me.
That's really good. And we saw some of that in Thailand. I mean, in terms of yourself as well, I remember we did some events that you organized in terms of beach cleanups and those sort of things. One of the things I noticed when I started pursuing the digital nomad research and so forth was often that's what the nomad wants. You want that integration, you want that cultural experience. What I've seen in many nomad hotspots sometimes is that you have this separation between the locals and the expats. So, what would you suggest expats can do to integrate or to really get integrated with the local society?
Um, I mean, gosh, there's really a lot that they can do. They could encourage, locals and digital nomads coming together. We definitely see, at least, I saw while I was in Thailand, that you definitely see all the digital nomads hanging out in one spot and
Yeah,
kind of congregating, whereas I was drawn to, the more I was drawn away from those places. I wasn't really interested in going to the Irish pub
yeah,
in Thailand. I wanted to go to the reggae bar and to,
yeah,
to these places where I knew I was going to be, I was going to meet local people. And,
yeah.
within our co-working spaces, that's where we meet, the other digital nomads.
Mm,
So as far as expats, yeah, just really encouraging, that, coming together of everybody, where, and not to put down the Irish pub, but that definitely is an attraction to, I think,
yeah. Yeah.
It's, I don't know that that's attracting, you know, everybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and we've definitely seen some encouraging things. I was telling you earlier, I'm a member of many digital nomad groups, and I've seen a lot of really encouraging questions in the group around local public schools and local clubs and local groups and how they can get involved and meet people that way. So I really think it's good to have that cultural integration. What do you think are some of the benefits for not just the nomad, but for the local community of being exposed to the expat or remote working community?
yeah, you know, I think when you bring people together from all over the world, like the digital nomad community, just bringing in all of our knowledge and everything that we've learned on our travels, and bringing all of that knowledge together, I mean, I think it could, I mean, it could be world changing potentially, you know, and if we
Yeah,
are encouraging that, the sky is the limit, really, you know, and
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is encouraging. It is encouraging to see when people actually pursue that as opposed to just sticking to their little bubbles. Because that worries me. I mean, we're saying that we're going around the world, we want to travel, we want to expose ourselves to different cultures, and then
right.
we go and just hang out with other nomads, or you're not really having that. So is there anything that draws you to a particular co-working space? Because this is something that's very new, and I keep using the context of the Caribbean just because, one, that's personal to me, but also for a lot of Caribbean countries which are tourism dependent, this
Mm,
is now a potential income generator for
mm.
those countries. So what would you say that perhaps governments or local bodies can do to try to also encourage that sort of integration? Is there anything they can do for the nomad like yourself to help you to really blend?
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking to Cohub, they really, I think, figured it out on how to really support the digital nomads that were coming in there, and to make visa runs easy, to make, you know, all of that stuff easier, because it can be really stressful.
Mm.
It just can be. So yeah, Cohub did a really good job. They, you know, organized visa runs. They, you know, made sure that your passport was submitted to the government, you know, when it needed to be. And so really that would have been something, you know, which I didn't know upon being there, that if I didn't,
Yeah,
there was these certain things, there's all these little things that you don't know, especially when you're first starting out,
yeah,
um, that you have to do. Otherwise you could get fined, or you could get, you know, kicked out of the country. And they're
yeah,
just, you know, minor things. And it's different everywhere you go. But for the co-working space to have all of that organized, and to be able to have the resources to help digital nomads come in and just make it, you know, a little bit
yeah,
less stressful,
yeah,
would be really helpful. And I think governments too, being more accepting of digital nomads coming in um, and
yeah,
working remotely,
yeah,
without, you know, the worry, you know, of us getting in trouble,
yeah,
for
yeah,
working, you know, even though we're not working, we're not really working
yeah,
for that
yeah,
country, but
yeah.
it's also complicated. So to have all these little logistics within the co-working space,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
remember that. I
yeah,
remember in certain places there was a bit of a blurred line, or a bit of a like
yes,
having to be careful communicating that you were actually working, because you're not allowed to work because you have a particular type of visa, and so
right.
forth. So I imagine that's what's so attractive, particularly about the Barbadian welcome stamp, that you have this 12-month work visa where you can work from Barbados for 12
You
months.
don't have to hide what you're doing. We can say, I'm here as a digital nomad, and
Yeah,
know that that's not going to implicate us in any way. Whereas
yeah,
that's not the case for a lot of countries.
yeah. That's very true. And you
Nomad.
mentioned a particularly important point, because I know Barbados is very young, and the Caribbean as well is very young on its journey developing nomad infrastructure. And one of the things you mentioned there is quite important. If we have any listeners out there who might be thinking of developing co-working spaces, you mentioned in terms of having particular facilities, because currently Barbados is there are a lot of businesses now and business persons that are now developing co-working spaces. So you will see more and more pop up as the year goes by and so forth. But you mentioned a good point in terms of offering the facility that makes it almost a one-stop shop for the digital nomad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that is huge. I can't believe I left that out earlier. I mean, that's huge to be able to, yeah, have your, food package, your room and board, and your co-working all in one lump
Yeah.
sum.
Yeah.
That just makes it so much easier. At least when you're first getting to wherever you're going,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is huge.
Yeah.
And that would keep me coming back.
Yeah.
If it was just that easy to jump right in.
That's true. Yeah. And you mentioned also in terms of the government's involvement in, like, when it does come like to the end of that year or so forth, actually making it easy if you wanted to repeat another year or so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good points. So what do you think then in terms of when we consider a lot of the countries that are now trying to become digital nomad hotspots? You mentioned in terms of the visa, but we know that there are some spots that are at the very top lists when it comes for digital nomads because of cost of living and so forth. So you have Thailand, you have Vietnam and so forth. What do you think about the Caribbean in terms of its potential to become a top remote working hotspot?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's affordable places to stay, being a digital nomad in the US is really expensive, and it's not really sustainable unless you're, making a ton of money. So that's definitely the attraction of going to Southeast Asia. It's more affordable. And so in Barbados, I've never been to Barbados, and so I'm not sure. Is it going to cost me $2,000 a month to stay in Barbados? If so, then I probably won't be going. At least, I would maybe do a 3-month, trip. But if I could find something, that was affordable, absolutely. That would get me there a lot faster. So I think if the co-working spaces can, when they're keeping that in mind, especially with, people with our lifestyle, is a lot of times, we're here because we want to work less and live more, you know what I mean? And so, this lifestyle is the simplistic lifestyle, and most of us, I think, are more content with less. Just so we can experience the world, that's totally worth it. So if that's kept in mind with the co-working spaces in Barbados, and especially with those package deals, I think that would definitely get digital nomads there.
You draw on a really important point when you talk about what digital nomads look for in terms of wanting that simple type of lifestyle. One of the things I was quite surprised by in my travels, being a digital nomad, but also researching digital nomads, is the breadth of the group, just the variety, the breadth of variety in the group, how many different types of digital nomads there are, and how many are looking for certain types of experiences. So we've seen some of the let's say you have those who are on a gap year, those college students who graduated university are on a gap year, they want that party experience. You have those traveling with the family. You have those like yourself who are very interested in contributing and enjoying the local area. Do you think certain types of nomad hotspots attract certain types of nomads?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, Koh Lanta, didn't have any resorts. It was more, you felt like, was still untouched from tourists. And that's absolutely what, a huge thing that attracted me to go there. Rather than going somewhere else where, for me, I didn't care about staying in a fancy place. I would have been fine, in a grass hut, as long as I had good Wi-Fi and a fan. So, but I think, it just depends on the nomad, I think. I tended to attract the energy of like-minded people like myself, but I know I met plenty of people that were, staying in the most expensive places on the island, and that's how they do it, that's how they do. Whereas for me, even if I, am making a good living, I'd rather save that money and live more like a local does, because that's how I'm going to connect. And so I think that just depending on the kind of digital nomad you are, you're going to attract other people just like you.
Yeah, that's very true. And do you think that sorry, go ahead.
It's all over the map, really, of just what digital nomads I think are looking for.
That's true. I think it really makes me think of the tourism product in that sense. The fact that you have such a wide range of digital nomads, whereas sometimes it's portrayed as this one homogenous group. And it really, I think, presents an opportunity for countries to really tailor to different types of nomad experiences. And I really want to see that developed as well. So it'd be interesting to see what comes, especially where you mentioned the co-working spaces and the type of experience that they can offer you as well.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to what the future holds. So we've kind of spoken about some of the great things about being a nomad, that lifestyle, that freedom, the experience in the local context and so forth. What has been some of the difficulties for you as a digital nomad, or what do you see as some of the difficulties in general with digital nomads?
Sure. I guess when I first started with this transition, the most difficult part was the visa, renewing the visas. That was really stressful for me, just because it was so unknown, and knowing that you could possibly be declined, and it was just really, you were leaving a lot up to chance and risk. So, but now, and I think that's, I think that, just going back to that, I think universally is, something that we have to think about that, and where we're gonna, renew our visas, and having that all in order before you travel or right when you get to a country. But now for me, the stresses are a little bit different. Now it's, where am I gonna stay next? Because I am still in the US, and it's not cheap to stay in Airbnbs. And, it's a little bit more difficult to find these furnished places where it's not necessarily a digital nomad hotspot, where affordable furnished homes are just so readily available. Whereas when you're traveling in Thailand or hopefully Barbados, and these places, they're ready for us. But here is not where I am. That has been the biggest stress. And I'm sure there's a lot of other, I imagine that's also universal for digital nomads right now, is being stuck in their home country and just having a backpack and no furniture, and finding, a solid furnished place.
I've seen a lot of those inquiries in the group as well. People very much stressing that it's important that the place is furnished, just to take that load of having to shop around and get stuff, especially with what's going on.
Right, exactly. And that's just it's not sustainable when, you're moving every 2 or 3 months, which is what I'm doing right now. So, I'm keeping my original Thailand bag close. So luckily it's been summer here.
Oh, that's good. So what do you think in terms of, when we put it now in the lens, because we filter now everything in the lens of COVID-19 and the pandemic and potential of a second wave and these sort of things. What do you see as some of the immediate difficulties that presents, not just for digital nomads, but for the spaces that accommodate them?
Oh, geez.
When I ask that, I'm thinking of CoHub and how they experienced the pandemic, for example.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know CoHub has been struggling just because there hasn't been, there's no tourists. I think it's definitely affecting these co-working spaces, and they can, I think, market to people who are stuck in the countries. That's where CoHub is getting its coworkers, is they're who are stuck in these countries and can't get home.
Stuck in Thailand, the horror.
I know.
Oh, how horrible is your life?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, well, it'll be really interesting to see how they move forward, and especially as borders continue to stay closed. But people are still traveling. People are still. There's quite a few people that are stuck outside of their home country and weren't, either didn't want to go back, chose not to, or just wasn't able to. So
you kind of reminded me as well of how a lot of countries who would depend on tourism have repurposed a lot of the accommodation. So for example, hotels that are now considering making their spaces, setting up their spaces in a way that the locals in that country can work remotely, since everyone has gone to remote working anyway. So it really does, you see the innovation coming out in a time like this. It's not ideal. We don't wish for a time like this, but it's really forcing companies and especially within that sector to get very creative.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, I would be so happy to go, to anywhere in Southeast Asia or Barbados or wherever I'm going, and to go into a co-working space and see local people there also working. Do these co-working spaces have to be just for the traveling digital nomad? That could be a way that countries and these co-working spaces can involve the community more, is advertise not only to just digital nomads, but now that we're all working, not all of us, but the majority of the world is working digitally now. So now we can really incorporate, the local communities, and amazing to see. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot more of it. So fingers crossed for that. But we'll see what happens. It's an exciting time, I think, not just for the Caribbean, but for a lot of other countries. I say exciting, but I say that with caution, because of course we know the trauma of everything that's going on. But even in a state of trauma, there's a lot of silver linings that's being taken away from the situation. And this is really one where people have been forced to get more innovative and experiment and try new things. And this is definitely an area where that's happening in Caribbean context.
Absolutely. And I think other companies who were never, the thought of their employees traveling the world and still working was just not even an option. So I think going to open the doors up to, just a whole new way of being.
I think so. I look forward to
work-life balance.
Whole other debate there. But thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your experience as a digital nomad, and especially highlighting not just the good, but also the challenges that come along with that. It's not always sunshine and beaches. But it can be quite stressful at the same time, but at the same time it can be a really fulfilling experience. So you gotta tell us, what's the funniest travel story?
Funniest travel story. Well, I've got a handful of them, but I think one that stands out to me the most would be when I was on a layover in China, and I had forgotten that I had packed a curling iron in my bag, and I didn't check anything. I was just carry on everything. And I don't know why I brought a curling iron, because I never used it once. But I brought this curling iron, and it went through security and through the x-ray machine, and it looked like a gun.
Oh my gosh.
And I had forgotten that I had even packed it. And so they pulled me out of the line, and I'm rushing to my next flight. It was like a really high intensity moment anyways. And then to be, I was pretty much interrogated, and they showed me my bag in the x-ray, like, what is this? And I was like, I don't know.
That's not my bag.
I don't know. Like, I really don't know what that is. And then also not speaking the language, it was pretty intense. And so then they opened it, and all it was, like, they were getting ready to open, and find something crazy. And I was too. I thought, I didn't know what happened. I thought somehow something got stuffed in my bag. And then to open it and see that it was just a curling iron. It was pretty hilarious. Oh, they thought it was so funny. I was just relieved, and I think just like maniacal laughing.
Be careful, I'll curl you to death.
Yeah. But it all worked out, and it was pretty hilarious. And
that could have ended a lot worse. Yeah. And so all the guests say it wasn't funny then, but it's definitely funny now.
And lesson learned, I don't need a curling iron while I'm
especially in the heat.
No. Doesn't matter.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. This has been Sarah Azim. I'm a graphic designer who is currently based in Washington and sharing her experience of being a digital nomad. Sarah's been telling us about some of the things that attracts her to a nomad hotspot, including the type of visa that they're offering, the cost of living, and particularly the accommodation. And Sarah's also very keen to stress the integration, and having that integration is really important to some digital nomads as well. So thank you, Sarah, for everything that you shared. And thank you for our listeners for joining us again. This has been another episode of Remotely Speaking Up. Bye.
Bye.